Robert De Niro, right? This is the same guy who thought that Joe Biden was competent.
Why do you think
Snoring.
the issue?
He was afraid of this woman who's a total deranged, crazy ex-girlfriend.
I'm not guilty, obviously.
I don't know, Epstein. I'm not guilty. Give the woman a Valium. Andrew has been reduced to a meme.
The maximum penalty is life imprisonment.
This is Danica Goes Global from Sky News Australia.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Danica DiGiorgio. Well, here we go again. A deranged lefty has breached the secure perimeter of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida while armed.
At 1:30 this morning, the security detail detected that a individual had made his way into the inner perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. A deputy and two Secret Service agents on the detail went to that area to investigate. They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those two pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the two Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene.
Look, I am done. Okay, I am done with the left. The same left who preach tolerance and inclusivity and the rest of the carry on day in, day out. And they are the worst out of all of them. They are a bunch of absolute hypocrites. Now, thank God the president and his family were not at Mar-a-Lago and that they were safe from this crazy individual. Now, this is a suspect who was shot dead at the scene. This is 21-year-old Austin Tucker Martin from North Carolina. Authorities say his family had reported him missing on Saturday, and law enforcement was reportedly not aware of Martin before this incident. Now, if you take a look at his social media, it shows that he's obsessed with drawing golf courses. But other than that, it appears he has very limited social media interaction. But as mentioned, okay, he was armed with a gas can as well as a shotgun. That's the picture. And as officers said before, he actually raised that gun to a shooting position when he was confronted. The FBI says the incident, including the individual's background, actions, potential motive, and the use of force is under investigation. But seriously, the guy was armed, okay? It is not hard to put two and two together. Austin Tucker goes to Mar-a-Lago, for, a little friendly visit, a little pop around with a gas canister and a shotgun. I mean, come on, really? Now, we don't know if this was planned. We don't know if he was unhinged. But one thing's for certain, that the outcome could have been much worse.
This is the picture that I'm going to give you of the shotgun and the gas can, so you got it with us. All right? So you'll have that. Like I said, there's a lot more investigation to be done. FBI is the lead agency. We'll be assisting them. And fortunately, nobody was in jeopardy inside because of the quick action that was taken by the deputies and the Secret Service.
Look, okay, very lucky indeed. But this is yet another breach of the president's security. How does this happen? The perimeter of Mar-a-Lago is like Fort Knox. It is protected. And no doubt there will be a thorough investigation, but this is not good enough. And as we know, this is not the first attempt on the president's life. In 2024, Thomas Matthew Crooks fired at Donald Trump as the president addressed a rally in Pennsylvania. The bullet, you remember, grazed Donald Trump's ear. A few months later, Ryan Wesley Roth was spotted wielding a rifle near Trump at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. And here we are today. A man armed with a shotgun and a gas canister managed to just stroll into a secure area at Mar-a-Lago before being shot dead by the Secret Service. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt sums it up. She says in the middle of the night, while most Americans were asleep, the United States Secret Service acted quickly and decisively to neutralize a crazy person armed with a gun and a gas canister who intruded President Trump's home. Federal law enforcement are working 24/7 to keep our country safe and protect all Americans. It's shameful and reckless that Democrats have chosen to shut down their department. And that is just it, okay? That is the exact problem, because the left The Democrats, we know, they call him Hitler, a fascist, a dictator. Words mean everything, especially to some deranged, crazy person who then wants to go and take matters into their own hands. Donald Trump's a fighter. Every day he puts his life on the line and he continues to get stronger than ever. Yet the left is so insistent in their deranged minds to try and take him out. Now, Trump and his family should not have to sit back while there is another attempt after another attempt of violence against him. The normalisation of violence has to stop. The rhetoric from the Democrats has to stop. And of course, the delusions of the liberal media has to stop. It is sickening. When will the left let it go? All right, let's change pace now and talk about this.
If you think that I don't understand foreign policy because out of hours of discourse about international affairs, I pause to think about one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues that currently exist on Earth, I'm afraid the issue is not my understanding, but rather the problem is perhaps you've gotten adjusted to a president that never thinks before he speaks.
Righto, okay. Firstly, have you had a couple of wines over the weekend there, Alexandria? Taken a couple of cues from Kamala with the drunken, raspy voice? A few too many word salads, perhaps, in Munich. Secondly, the snoring. The snoring in the background is her partner. So she's taken out the phone. She's done a little Instagram video. Partner is asleep in the background snoring. You can't even hear her because she's got a raspy voice. I mean, does that scream to you, I am a foreign policy expert? No, it does not. So in that video, she attempted to try and clarify that crippling and debilitating brain freeze that she suffered on the world stage last week. And I'll give you a reminder of that exact moment.
And should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that
Hello?
This is, of course, a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Yeah, the lights are on, but you're not home, are you, AOC? So here we are a week later. She's popped out of hiding, whipped out the phone in bed, and is blaming her public hallucination on who else but Donald Trump.
If you actually look at what Trump said about this issue himself, he actually had the same, if not a worse, answer.
Oh.
So ask yourself, why do you think the issues turn to that? And I'm going to tell you, it's because, frankly, there are very few people who are actually willing to challenge the foreign policy establishment that continues to send people to war and bankrupt our country for the rich.
I'm sorry, I am so distracted by that snoring in the background. And Alex, honey, let's not forget you were asked a very, very basic foreign policy question, but we didn't quite get to see your intellectual prowess. Why? Oh, of course. It's because of Donald Trump. It is all Donald Trump's fault that there's nothing between AOC's temples. I mean, is this seriously the woman the Democrats maybe want to run for president in the future? Can you imagine her as the commander-in-chief? I mean, she's going to do press conferences from her bed, while the partner's having a sleep in the background. I mean, that is the caliber of individual here. Now, there's only one way to sum this up, and that's in song.
Dumb as AOC, no way, not me.
I think that
AOC, she can't explain it. She overcomplicated. When asked where Venezuela is, the map rotates. She sounds like Kamala word salad part 2. We don't understand Bad Bunny. We don't understand you. You dumb as AOC, no way, not me.
Yeah, Download that. That needs to be a global hit, seriously. Now, look, speaking of stupidity, ladies and gentlemen, I present the Democrats.
Powerful message that we can all agree on. Say it with me. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, terrific, isn't it? So that was Katie Porter, whose campaign for California governor is in dire straits. And I know you must be thinking, oh, no way. How could she be in dire straits? Now, look, she's so dire herself that she brought a little prop with her to the California Democratic Convention in San Francisco, which read, F Trump, before she clearly had some sort of an episode. And maybe she might need some help for that, because if you needed a reminder of just how lovely this woman is.
That we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems. And the state could lose. Get out of my shot.
Oh. I'm going to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay. It does. Okay. You also were in my shot before that.
Oh.
Stay out of my shot.
Wow. That woman is all class, all class. And then enter another California governor Democrat candidate. This time it's Eric Swalwell, who was at the same cult of personality event.
Raise your right hand if you think this country and California are in trouble, and keep them up. And raise your left hand if it's the biggest trouble we've been in our lifetime. That's why I'm running for governor.
Yeah, and do the hokey pokey and turn around while you got your arms up. I mean, this is the same guy who once penned a graphic, sex-charged college poem boasting of lovers kissing till veins imploded and exploded with blood rolling down our chins. The poem was titled Hungover from Burgundy, describing two partners meeting atop of a hotel before having formless and magnificent sex in a flurry of limbs and nails, with the narrator appearing to relish being bitten. Where on earth are the Democrats finding these candidates? And on the topic of Trump derangement, I now present the ladies of The View. And this one comes with a trigger warning, by the way. Meltdown Central incoming. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar are listed in the Epstein files.
Yes, if they find enough evidence, and really good evidence, because that list has a lot of crazy names on it. And it's almost like a way to muddy the waters so that you say, oh, Whoopi's on the list, right? And so am I think. Why?
But
because
we can't pick and choose.
Wait, let me finish this, please. We're on the list because we were at a party or a wedding or something that somebody might have been. That's what I found out anyway.
Yeah. Like a bunch of flapping chickens laying eggs. I mean, did you take a look at the sheer panic on Joy's face? Can somebody screenshot that and frame it, please? And I love how she goes, we're listed, but only because we went to a party, a wedding, maybe. Like, no biggie. I mean, you could not have picked a better bunch to be named on the files, especially after they put so much time and energy into calling for their release.
Bottom line is this: release the damn files and release them now. Release everything.
If this does not implicate Donald Trump, why wouldn't you say release everything? They absolutely have to show us what they're all hiding. If there's nothing to hide, release it all.
But all of that information is out there. Why not just put it to rest and say, release the list?
Because, they should just say, listen, this is what it is.
Sonny, release the list. Release it. I mean, this is truly incredible, okay? The bitter banshees have had a life epiphany, okay? It's gone from bring down the house, destroy Donald Trump, he's named on the files, to crickets. And have a listen to Joy.
I'm not guilty, obviously, but these other ones, how are you going to decide who's really guilty and who's not?
Well, I think
very tricky.
It's very tricky. I don't know, Epstein. I'm not guilty. Give the woman a Valium. And here's Whoopi with her latest explanation.
Look, you know why my name is there. Because someone was looking for a plane, and that's what people do. They go to all the people who have private planes and say, do you have one?
And you didn't get on the plane.
I didn't get on the plane. I didn't know they were looking for a plane.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the plane that I was supposed to be on was no longer available. So I'm named in there like Whoopi Goldberg needs a
But
plan.
there are a lot of people that are
Marilyn
named.
Monroe was on the list.
Yes.
There were plenty of people that were there are plenty of
Elvis
people
also.
named.
Yeah.
Elvis also, okay? Look, this is priceless. Now, nobody is suggesting any wrongdoing by any of them. But to see karma and hypocrisy just slap them both in the face like that, oh, it's delicious. And do you know who's been vindicated out of all of this? Donald Trump. And now he's released the files. I mean, he's done what the Democrats did not, and the View are freaking out. They're annoyed. They're annoyed because they've got Trump derangement syndrome infiltrating their veins. I mean, they're truly paralyzed by it. And now, well, they've got nothing to hang on him, have they? Because they've been named. And if that wasn't enough TDS for one day, I have to end it on Gavin Newsom, the Californian Ken doll and Botox extraordinaire. He's out there spreading panic and propaganda about the SAVE Act. So this is the proof of citizenship to vote. And Gavin says, well, he simply cannot comply because he's got no clue where his ID is.
And of course, we're not talking about the other aspects of the SAVE Act that go well beyond ID, and it goes to which is also part of Jim Crow, the history, and that is when it comes to registration, you got to find your birth certificate. If you know where yours is, I have no clue where mine is.
No. Let's just get this right. So Gavin is governor of California, so he's in charge of a state. He might, down the track, consider a tilt at the White House, but the man can't quite find his own birth certificate? Well, have you checked your top drawer, Gavin? It might be sitting beside your miracle hair growth cream. Joining me now is host of the Tudor Dixon podcast, Tudor Dixon herself. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to have you on the show today. Look, I really want to start with this incident at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. 21-year-old Austin Tucker Martin managed to breach the secure perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. He was armed with a shotgun and a gas canister before he was then shot dead by the Secret Service. Look, for me, Tudor, there's a lot to unpack here. Firstly, I think it's extraordinary that he was able to breach the perimeter in the very first place. But here we go again. Donald Trump's already had 2 attempts on his life. Thank goodness he was not home over the weekend in this latest incident. But what does it say more broadly about the left's violence and trying to take matters into their own hands?
Well, right, and I don't think we've confirmed who was there, if any of the family members were there. So there's certainly a concern that there were people. I mean, obviously, there are always people at the resort, so there were people in danger. Yes, of course, that concern is also, how did this person get there? We're still getting a lot of details. This is an ongoing investigation, but you made a very great point. This is a continued cycle of violence that we see from the left. And it's a continued attempt on the president's life. I heard a former FBI agent earlier today say this president he's in more danger than any past president we've ever had. At this point, I would say that he's had more attempts on his life, and it does look like he's in more danger, but the left does not stop. They don't stop and say, we've got to stop attacking him. We've got to stop saying so many dangerous things about him. They cannot help themselves. They are so ratcheted up. They are so out of control. They cannot help themselves. They're constantly out there saying terrible things about the president, even though their lives have gotten better under this president. And there's no denying that. Prices have gone down. Gas prices have gone down. People are getting educational, or they're getting financial accounts for their children. They have had so many things go in positive directions. You're going to get a bigger tax refund in the United States under President Trump, and they can not say anything nice about this president.
No, and what that suggests to me is the sheer hypocrisy that's on display. I mean, they never look at what's going good. They always want to focus on going bad because they're so Trump deranged. But you're right, and you raise a good point. In the end, words matter. Words have consequences. We've seen this before. And as I said, thank God that the president and the family weren't home. Now, look, we've got to unpack Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is diabolical, to say the least. Now, she has attempted to clarify her crippling and debilitating public hallucination that she suffered on the world stage in Munich last week when she was asked about Taiwan. But have a listen to her explanation.
If you think that I don't understand foreign policy because out of hours of discourse about international affairs, I pause to think about one of the most sensitive geopolitical issues that currently exist on Earth. I'm afraid the issue's not my understanding.
Wow. Okay, a couple of things to unpack there. One, you can barely hear her properly because her voice is raspy. Secondly, she's blaming Donald Trump for the fact that she is so dense. And thirdly, there's snoring in the background. So her partner is in the background asleep snoring. She's uploaded this video. It doesn't exactly scream, I am a foreign policy expert, does it?
No, I mean, it doesn't even scream, I'm a congresswoman. This screams like crazy ex-girlfriend. Who does this? It really is so deranged that, first of all, you have a flub on the world stage. Okay, she has to own that. She has to own that her people actually put out a tweet saying, we've prepared her for days for this. She was over-prepared only to talk about socialist theory and how much she hated Donald Trump. She did not go in there prepared to talk about foreign policy. That is her fault. Has no one else can be blamed for that. That is her fault. She has to own that. But she doesn't necessarily have to come out and say, you know, I made a mistake. Just move on. A real professional, I mean, she could look at some of the women in her party from years past, and she would see that a real professional goes, okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to move on. I'm going to point out the good things that I did. But she didn't. I mean, what has happened over the last few days, honestly? Where did her voice go? Has she been like a screaming maniac? And if you have no voice, here's a suggestion to AOC. If you 3 days or 4 days after you come back from a failed trip have lost your voice, and that many days later you decide you have to respond to something that happened, and you look like maybe you've been screaming about it from losing your voice, don't respond. Do not do this video. Do not sit next to someone who is sleeping like you are a prisoner in the corner of some bedroom. I don't even know what's behind her. You can see like a bed headboard or something, and she's like whispering into the camera with no voice. Her voice has clearly been lost. She looks like a lunatic. She's not prepared for actually moving up. I mean, and think about how bizarre this is. This is someone that Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, was so scared of. He let the government be shut down for the longest government shutdown we've ever had in the United States because he was afraid of this woman who's a total deranged, crazy ex-girlfriend.
She's a mouse. I mean, the fact that he was scared of her, I mean, it's beyond belief, Tudor. And you're right. She should have just kept quiet. Maybe she's been on the wines, Kamala Harris style. We know that I think that Kamala is her idol in life, clearly. And now, look, a very
They talk the same.
They talk the same. The word salads in Munich were exactly the same as we've seen from word salads of Kamala's past, that's for sure. Now, big week ahead, okay? Now, I'll say this. Get your popcorn out because Bill and Hillary Clinton, they're going to face US Congress to outline their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And I don't know about you, but I can't wait to hear the former president explain this infamous photo in the late pedophile's hot tub. I cannot wait to find out. This is going to be interesting, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Hillary explained it already. She was like, you know, he's doing foundation work. I'm like, how many foundations do you have to like spend your time in the hot tub with people who are clearly blacked out? Obviously, women that were too young to even be exposed in these hot tubs. I mean, this is ridiculous. But I look forward to seeing how she handles this because I think she's another one that has really not handled the spotlight the way she should have. And this is why she's so unlikable. This is why she couldn't win the presidency. So she was able to win the Senate seat in a very blue state. Let's face it, she didn't go back to Arkansas. She went to New York. She won the Senate seat. She then became Secretary of State, but she's never really earned anything on her own. So when she tried to go out and become president, she was so crazed and so angry. People just didn't like her. I think that's what we're going to see when she comes out and she starts talking about this, because look at her also in Germany. Remember when the Czech politician says to her, I think you just don't like Trump. And she lost it on him. She was like, I don't like him. That's right. He's taking away women's rights. And he was like, what are you talking about? Look, we believe there's two genders. She went off again. She had to be asked 3 times in that one panel to let the man speak. So what could she possibly be like when she's facing her own, having to face what her husband did, and potentially her as well. I mean, these people attended her daughter's wedding. They definitely had some close relationship with the Clintons that they are going to have to explain. And I just think that we're going to see a very unhinged Hillary Clinton. I think Bill is well prepared for this because he's been living with Hillary, but Hillary's not prepared.
Oh, no, Hillary's not prepared. Look, her performance over at Munich was an absolute disaster. And she's been trying to talk the good talk. No, we have no links. We've got no links. But as you said, there are links at weddings. So we need to find out what went on, who knew what. And as I said, I cannot wait to hear what they have to say, especially that explanation. In a way, I almost feel sorry for Hillary having to listen to her husband's indiscretions, yet again, as if she hasn't done that once in her life, that's for sure.
It's hard to feel sorry for Hillary these days.
It is hard to feel sorry. I will retract that statement. I just think, gosh, as a wife, she's been through a lot with that president, let me say that. Now, look, there has been chaos at a Mexican resort town. It's actually quite frightening. Drug cartels lashed out after the leader of the brutal Jalisco New Generation cartel was killed in a military raid. The vision, as you can see, they're frightening. Tourists in Puerto Vallarta were warned to stay indoors as narco gangs went on a rampage. It follows the death of drug kingpin Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera Cervantes. The US State Department urged Americans to shelter in place. And also some American tourists have been reportedly trapped in that region, Tudor. What is the latest? This is very concerning.
Yeah, obviously we've seen actually some of the other towns that have also been brought in, and we've seen some fires in some adjoining towns. This is very dangerous. This is very scary what we're seeing, but this is not a shock to Americans. Let me be clear. Americans have been saying, especially Republicans, have been saying for a very long time, these cartels own Mexico. These cartels are very, very dangerous. They own, I will tell you, we didn't have an open border. We had a border controlled by the Mexican cartels. Under Joe Biden, he allowed them to become more and more powerful. And by having that open border, they were bringing in $1 billion a day, moving not just drugs, but moving people across that border. People were a very lucrative, moving the transport of people, sex trafficking was very lucrative for them for those 4 years under Joe Biden. They raised billions of dollars for their organizations to wreak terror, to wreak havoc across the state of Mexico. And fortunately, Donald Trump came in and shut down that border. That has hurt those cartels significantly. And they've said, they've labeled them, the administration has labeled them a terrorist organization. Now you can see, obviously the Mexican president has decided she will also go after them. She was the one who took this kingpin out. This has obviously had this reaction that you're seeing where they're starting to burn towns down and they're terrorizing people. And there was even video on the beach where you were just hearing gunshots, just bullets sprayed across the beaches. It's a very scary situation. I think it's time that it is dealt with, that these cartels are taken down. But it's going to be, we could potentially see what will resemble a war inside of Mexico.
Wow. And it's frightening. And I guess it's also another reminder why Donald Trump is so firm on shoring up the US border. This vindicates everything that he has been saying. This is the exact dangers in front when you've got people like this try to cross over the border into the United States, and you've got the lefty lunatics who are saying, no, we can't be arresting illegals. Well, have a look at what's going on in Mexico. Wake up and have a look what's going on. These are not the kind of people you want crossing into the United States. So it is a very frightening situation, as you say. Now, I want to change pace because we've got to talk about the New York City mayor, Zoran Mamdani. Another normal day over in Mamdani land. Now, if you want help to shovel snow ahead of the winter storm, roll up, but the caveat is you're going to need multiple forms of ID for anyone who'd like to register. And here was Mamdani earlier.
And we're utilizing 33 DSNY vans and 2 DSNY buses to transport shovelers where they're needed faster. And for those who want to do more to help your neighbors and earn some extra cash, you too can become an emergency snow shoveler. Just show up at your local sanitation garage between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. tomorrow with your paperwork, which is accessible online at nyc.gov/snow. and you can get started right away.
Terrific. So, Tudor, this is hilarious because he wants help with snow shoveling, but it's also going to take you hours to register in the process.
Oh, yeah. And the interesting part is the man who does not want voter ID is going to require you to have 2 forms of ID. Not only 2 forms of ID, you also have to have copies of those IDs. You have to have tiny pictures of yourself. My gosh, how many people just have a 1.5-inch square picture of themselves? And you have to have your Social Security card, which I find fascinating because remember, in the 2024 campaign, I remember Kamala Harris saying that it was so radical that people would ask people to bring an ID to vote, because to get an ID, you might have to make a copy of your marriage license or of your birth certificate. And there's not a Kinko's just anywhere. You can't just go anywhere and get a copy of your ID. And this was like the most racist thing you could think. Also, the same people are the ones that are like, look, we've got to bring these immigrants into the country because they're going to do the jobs you don't want to do. Now they suddenly need a bunch of people to shovel snow. I'm guessing that you're not going to have all the marketing executives or the guys on Wall Street or the people walking out of television studios in New York City saying, you know what, we're going to do our part. We're going to fill out all this paperwork and we're going to shovel snow. It's probably going to be some of those people that they brought in and they said, we're going to give you housing and we're going to give you all this free stuff, that might want to actually make some money, but they can't make money under Mamdani. They don't have a right to that job under Mamdani because they don't have an ID. How is this possible? I mean, this just proves that their theory that you should not have to have an ID to vote is totally bunk. These are the same people that require you to have an ID to buy alcohol, that require you to have an ID to go to the doctor's office, that require you to have an ID to get on an airplane. So as soon as he did this, every Republican looked at this and said, pass the SAVE Act right now. If you can honestly, I mean, we're talking about you have to come with your real ID. That's it. To vote, just bring your real ID, the same one you get on a plane with. If you want to shovel snow in New York, you better have like 5 different pieces of documentation to actually be able to get paid. And you know what the leftists are saying? Oh, it's a government job. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You're going to require all this ID to work for the government, but nothing to hire the government. Doesn't matter. You can choose the government no matter what you are, but to get paid by the government, you're going to have to prove who you are. That's ridiculous.
I mean, it's just, again, it's just something out of Planet Mamdani land that doesn't make sense. I thought that everything was going to be free, firstly, free and easy under Mamdani, and yet it is 10 times harder. Another error by this mayor. Now, we've got another big week ahead. It's the all-important State of the Union. At least 12 Democrats are planning to ditch Donald Trump's address. Unsurprising, of course, they've got no respect, and I'm sure there'll be more hisses and discussions by the Democrats as he's trying to give this all-important speech. But what do you think we can expect?
Well, I do think you're going to see some of those people not show up. I think that some of the Democrats have actually told people, if you're going to act out, don't show up. It didn't go well for us in 25 when everybody came and acted out. So we're going to try to get we're going to make it sound like we're boycotting and that's going to be a good look for us. I don't think it's going to be a good look for them. I think what they're going to end up, I mean, remember when I think his name was DJ, the young boy who had brain cancer last year, they couldn't even stand up and clap for him. They looked so foolish. They didn't look foolish. They looked nasty. They looked like a group of very angry, nasty people who couldn't stand for a child, who couldn't celebrate the boy who was going to West Point, who couldn't celebrate, who couldn't honor the families of the young women who were murdered by illegal aliens. I think what you're going to see is Donald Trump is going to bring in a bunch of people like that. He's going to show what he's been able to do with prescription drugs. They're going to talk about what they're doing with health, where they're going to talk about taking some of these food dyes out. I think you'll see them talking about the prices going down, gas prices going down. He's going to talk about the Trump accounts. He's going to talk about all these things that he's doing. And I think he'll get into tariffs too. I think he'll point out, look at all the money that came in on tariffs. We're going to do it a different way. I believe it's the right way to do it. And he's going to prove that so far it has been the right way to do it. It has allowed him to create great trade deals, but also bring income into the United States that is desperately needed, an income that's not coming out of the American people's pockets. And it will also disprove the lie that people have been spinning that if you have these tariffs, prices are suddenly going to go up, because that hasn't been the case. He's also going to highlight some businesses, I'm sure, that he's brought to the United States. And that'll be something that Democrats will sit there and they'll have no response to. Because if you look at Democrat states, if you look at the Democrat governors who are even on the world stage, I mean, you had Gavin Newsom, you had Gretchen Whitmer, who were on the world stage, and they were trying to talk nasty about the president. But if you look at their states, they're failing. They haven't brought any businesses in. So they'll have to sit there and hear the president touting all of his successes, and they'll do their state of the states in the coming weeks, and they really won't have anything to brag about compared to what Donald Trump has done for the United States of America.
No, they'll have absolutely nothing to offer. And I just, before we let you go, I just want to ask you actually about the tariffs that you mentioned, because Donald Trump is now planning to hike that universal tariff rate from 10% to 15%. Although I had to laugh, Tudor. Have a listen to this from CNN.
CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich is here. Vanessa, give us the reality check. Can President Trump impose these new tariffs?
Yes, he can, Jake.
Surprise! What a breakthrough. Yes, he can indeed. But take us through what this latest tariff hike will mean.
Yeah, well, Jake Tapper there was like, oh, I'm going to have to go write another book. So,
yes.
To his shock, he can actually do it. This is going to mean that Donald Trump is going to find a way. He has a plan. He has some of the greatest economic minds around him. And you've seen them on the world stage. That's the one thing. That's a main difference between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. No one is hiding. No one is hiding from the cameras. When they have these events, they're all partaking in these events. If you looked at Munich, you saw Bessent, you saw Rubio, you saw Vance. Everybody is out there talking at these conferences. They're not shying away. And even if they're not there, they're doing the media at home talking about these conferences. So that's a big difference that you see between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. And these economic minds that are around him, they have figured out how to use these tariffs to make sure that the United States is in a great position. But it's not just the United States is in a great position. It's that when the United States is in a great position and can build up their military force and can be a strong United States, then the United States is able to make sure that the world stays at peace. That's why this is so important to have this control. And he's going to prove that these tariffs can work. And the Supreme Court may have knocked down one way. That's just one way. He'll find a way.
Yeah, as he always does. Let's see how that one unravels. Tudor Dixon, it has been wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for all your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, now it is time for the Hall of Shame, where every week I'm going to name and shame the worst offenders. In fifth place this week, it's Kamala Harris, who's back on the wines and back with the word salads. I mean, have a listen to this, right? She was on a podcast, and I don't know whether this is some sort of pitch or promotion for the Democrats, but you be the judge. Let's have a look.
Part or even seen by the system. You just look at the range of what we have. So many. Jasmine Crockett, who I just talked to recently. I mean, we have so many stars. We have so many stars in our party. There are so many stars, and let's not be afraid of them. You talk about Mamdani. I mean, he's exciting this group of people.
Sorry. He's exciting. Mamdani is exciting. Okay, the guy has a resume longer than my arm. All right, he's got no skills. He literally woke up one day and just decided to, I'm just going to run and leave behind his previous life as a rapper, and she thinks that's exciting? Come on.
Don't think of themselves as being aligned or a part or even seen by the system. You just look at the range of what we have. So many. Jasmine Crockett.
Jasmine.
I just talked to recently. I mean, we have so many.
Okay, I cannot possibly listen to that anymore. Okay, so Jasmine Crockett. Well, is this the definition well, I've got to say, I think that she is a definition of why people do not take the left seriously. I mean, she's obsessed with illegal immigrants, firstly, and obsessed with shouting. And according to Kamala, well, apparently she's some sort of big star. I mean, I just find it utterly extraordinary. Now, coming in number 4 is Jennifer Newsom. Now, this is Gavin Newsom's wife, okay? And I didn't think that anybody could be more annoying, to be honest, than the actual Ken doll himself. But after watching this, I actually think that she might be the serial irritant stealing the mic again from him. Let's have a look at this.
And I will tell you right now, I will not raise my children to think Donald Trump is an acceptable American leader.
Really? Really? Really?
Nor that he is what the leader of our great country should behave like. I won't raise them to think his terror enables his power and that his greed equals success. He is the exact opposite of what real strength looks like.
Okay.
So in our
let's Jennifer. Firstly, no one cares how you're raising your kids. Okay? No one cares. What you and Ken, aka Gavin, do behind closed doors actually has nothing to do with America, believe it or not, in your palatial mansion, that is. But secondly, the fear-mongering, the Donald Trump hysteria, the Trump derangement syndrome that seems to be a real chronic issue for the Newsom family. So she's raising the next generation to also be as fearful of strong, wonderful leaders like Donald Trump, leaders that actually make a difference, leaders that aren't woke, leaders that aren't scared of gender ideology, leaders that aren't scared to put their foot down. So what are you raising? I don't know, like a bunch of wimps? What are you doing? I mean, again, it has nothing to do with me, what she does in her own backyard. But I just find it utterly extraordinary that she's going on these deranged and, quite frankly, sad rants. Now, speaking of sad rants, Don Lemon. Okay, this is the sacked CNN host, of course. He's been going bad for years, let's be realistic, but I actually think that he's gotten worse since his arrest. Let's have a listen to this.
Trump. F you. I think people are tired of being respectable and going high when they go low. And I think it's perfectly okay. Like sometimes you just have to say, I'm fed up. This is some bullshit. So F him. I'm sick of this shit. Okay. And I think that's the attitude that's worth carrying into the 2026 midterms.
Is it?
If you take that attitude into the polls, you take that attitude into your neighborhoods, that's the thing that people can really relate to.
Is it really something people can relate to? Is it Donnie? Again, another Trump derangement syndrome sufferer. Donnie has gotten worse over the years. I think that really he does need some chronic help for it. Can you imagine being so deluded and so deranged that every day you come on your own podcast or you go onto someone else's show just to say F Trump? Like, is that the only words you have in your vocabulary? F Trump. Is that it? You must be pretty dense, Donnie. You must be pretty dense. There mustn't be a lot going on up here if that's all you ever talk about. Maybe try and broaden your topics. Broaden your horizons. You might see the light better. It might be much, much better for your health. Let me assure you of that. Now, I brought you earlier, of course, the View. Okay, I mean, what can you say about the View? They are on a whole nother planet. But Sunny Hostin, we know that she's had a lot of issues with Trump in the past, but she's gone on one of her deranged, racist rants again. Have a look.
When it comes to the event that happened yesterday, what's so hard for me to witness is people stating that the president is a racist, because I've seen him firsthand. He saved one of my best friend's lives, a black woman who has been with him for 18 years.
He's a racist.
No, he saved her life.
No.
There she goes. Okay. Look at the face.
Here's the problem, Savannah,
Okay.
and
okay.
why
Let me just
have a different take on it.
Let me just cut Whoopi off because we know where this is going. Okay. Sunny, please. The left, this is the thing with the left, right? And especially Sunny, because you know, again, another lefty that has nothing else to talk about. But the left loves throwing around their favourite word of all time, racist. Okay? You could be, I don't know, waving the American flag, right? And the left will say, you're racist. Why? Because it's so easy for them to just tie themselves in knots of guilt. It's this imagined guilt. They try and project it back on you so that you feel bad about yourselves and that they feel better about themselves in their miserable lives. And let's not forget, Sonny, that Donald Trump, he loves a lawsuit, okay? And it wouldn't be the first time he's gone after somebody for calling him a racist. And I will say this, a very, very big well done to Savannah Chrisley there. I thought that she handled that situation so well under the circumstances, the voice of reason for actually pushing back against these Muppets, because honestly, they've got no idea what they're talking about. Anyway, in first position this week, actor Robert De Niro, number one on this week's Hall of Shame, okay? This guy is an unhinged Hollywood has-been. And would you believe it? He's on yet another TDS rant. Let's watch.
We have to make him leave. He jokes now about nationalizing the elections.
Mm-hmm.
He's not joking. We've seen enough already.
Yeah.
And everybody's worried about it. But he means it.
So you don't think he leaves in 3
He
years?
ain't leaving. No way.
Why
We
would
used to joke the first time they'd get him in the moving van and he'd be sitting in the back of the moving van. They'd put him in whatever.
Like a fake desk
put
in
him
there.
in his desk and not leaving the
Really?
White House desk. No, but he won't. He won't leave. Let's not.
Okay. Firstly, Robert, why would he leave? Okay, if he runs again, why is he going to leave? Now, let's not forget that Robert De Niro, right? This is the same guy who thought that Joe Biden was competent. He thought he was the smartest president on earth at the time when Joe Biden was mumbling, fumbling, stumbling, talking nonsense, walking around in circles, couldn't even remember what day it was, probably didn't even know his own name. And then Robert De Niro turned on him at the 11th hour. This is the same Robert De Niro who is really suffering from relevance deprivation syndrome. Robert, take a hint. You're a has-been. Go and get some help. Well, the man formerly known as Prince Andrew has been reduced to a meme. Now, it is so diabolical that activists have hung up a photo of him leaving the police station after his arrest at the Louvre in Paris with the caption, "He's sweating now, 2026, placed just below it." I mean, this was on display, would you believe, for 15 minutes before it was taken down by staff. It is an absolute new peak level of humiliation because Andrew has become a total parody of himself. Have a look at what is doing the rounds on social media. Prince Andrew, after realising it's the actual police at his door and not a stripper on his birthday. And Andrew wondering why the people turning up are holding handcuffs instead of his birthday cake. Dearie me. But look, between the image of him on all fours to new allegations he participated in sex shooting parties at Sandringham, where apparently lube and condoms were in rooms, to this new image of him with a toddler, and now I stress there are absolutely no allegations of any wrongdoing. And then this picture of him, of course, in the back of a police car after his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now, none of this, of course, takes away from the seriousness of the allegations, all of which Andrew strenuously denies. But the guy looks like he's white as a ghost. And this screams to me that he had no idea that he was caught unawares. Well, what on earth did he expect? Or maybe was it because he doesn't sweat, apparently?
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March.
Yeah.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was. Oh, actually, yes. I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at. and I simply, it was almost impossible for me to sweat.
Never gets old, does it? Joining me now to break down the arrest, the investigation and what this means for the royal family moving forward is former UK Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis. Sir Michael, thank you very much for being on the program on what is such a very important event. It's been a huge couple of days in the United Kingdom. I want to start with these allegations that were revealed in the Mail on Sunday that King Charles was warned as far back as 2019 that the royal family's name was being abused by Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's Business Association. No doubt this is a shocking look for the King already. He's being heckled everywhere he goes. But now more allegations. What does this mean for King Charles?
Well, hello, Danica. I think the situation really is this. If we, of course, have to bear in mind that King Charles was not king in 2019. So although Buckingham Palace has understandably and as usual has not made any comment, and of course its default position is that it doesn't comment on stories, we have to bear in mind that any attempt to say that the king didn't do something doesn't quite work in 2019 because he wasn't king then. But the other point I would make, we don't know the exact dates, but we do know that in 2019, the then Prince Andrew was asked to step back from public duties. So I think it's just too early to say that, or to jump to any conclusions about what happened in 2019 or what didn't happen. But I think that any attempt really to try and spread this out is going down the wrong path. There's only one issue here. When people get into trouble, when there are allegations, I don't think it would normally affect family members. If a viewer was to get arrested for something, to give an example, that viewer's brother wouldn't be contaminated by that same arrest. And I don't think that should be made to apply to anyone else either. So I'm sceptical about the attempts by some of the tabloids to spread it out, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, look, that does make sense. And I do want to ask you shortly about the impact on the royal family. But just another allegation that did come to light was that the former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown, he is claiming that Andrew may have even used taxpayer-funded jets to go and meet with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, this is quite a serious allegation if he was using taxpayers' money to possibly visit a pedophile. But what do you make of this?
Well, I think we need to be very careful at the moment because obviously we have to bear in mind that the presumption of innocence applies. You'd expect me as a former Attorney General to emphasize this point, but I think it really is important when we're dealing with celebrities or super high profile people because a number of people can make a number of allegations. The individual can't respond to them, we have to wait and see how justice takes its course here. But one thing I think we can be very assured of, and you can see from what's happened over the last couple of days, is that no one's being treated as though they're above the law here. That's certainly not happening. So we can see that the law applies to everyone equally. And when people say it's a constitutional crisis, I don't buy that. I think that actually, in a sort of a weird way, this shows that the Constitution is working well in that nobody is positioning themselves above the law or trying to stop the proper course of justice from happening.
And I guess that's the way that it should be, which is comforting to hear. Now, of course, you're the former. Yeah, please.
Sorry, Danica. I mean, I honestly think that wouldn't happen in most countries in the world. I mean, if you look at 193 countries at the UN, I doubt there's more than 10 or 20 countries out of those 193, and the UK and Australia are two of them, where really no one can be said to be unequal before the law. Most countries, I would be sceptical that would happen if it was a family member of a leader in this way. So I think we can be proud of the fact that it shows the system is working. No one, not even the most skeptical person, not even the most ardent Republican, can claim here that anyone is being treated in a special way. Far from it.
No, absolutely. And, you know, in the end, as you mentioned, we have to let the justice system now take its course wherever this investigation might go. Now, I want to talk to you about this investigation. So Andrew was, of course, arrested on, it was a Friday in Australia, Thursday night your time. And then it's gone into him being released. And now this investigation is going to take several days. Talk us through it. What sort of a case is being built?
Well, this is going to be something that the police are going to have to watch very, very carefully, because there's an offence in the English legal system called misconduct in a public office. Now, that offence was not a statutory offence. It didn't develop overnight because an act was passed in Parliament. That particular offence for which he's been arrested is a common law offence that developed over 200 years here in England, was developed by judges incrementally over more than 2 centuries. It's a really complicated offence, and they're going to have to really get their ducks in a row, as they do in any case like this, to make it stick. They're going to have to show that he was in a public office at the relevant time, and how that's defined is not as simple as you might think. It's actually quite involved. They're going to have to show that what he did was, if he did wrong or failed to do something that was his duty to do, that it was whilst he was acting in that public office, not when he was acting outside of that office, and that he willfully did it. So there's a number of legal elements which are really quite complicated. I think the police have got quite a tough job on their hands, and we shouldn't make any assumptions about how easy that's going to be. This investigation could go on, I think, for a very long time, perhaps multiple months.
Wow. Okay. So given then the difficulties that you've just outlined with this particular investigation and what police are looking at, what's the likelihood then of charges even being laid? And if so, is this a jailable offence? Could he go to jail?
Well, the offence is an imprisonable offence. It carries actually what's known as an at-large sentence. Because Parliament never passed an act over it, they never set a maximum penalty. So the maximum penalty is life imprisonment. However, most people who are prosecuted for this offence get a much lower sentence, a year or 2, something like that. What will happen in this case, I wouldn't make any assumptions at all. I think this is going to be, as I say, a tough nut for the British authorities to crack, and I wouldn't make any assumptions. Very often this particular offence is used against people like police officers who misuse the police national computer to look up, you know, what their relatives or partners or ex-partners were doing, or prison officers who have improper relations with their prisoners and people like that. So people who were clearly in a public duty, holding a public office, who very clearly misconduct themselves whilst holding that office. And they tend to get sentences in the 2 to 3 year range. But we really can't tell. This is unprecedented. As you've heard, no doubt, the historians saying, we haven't had an arrest of a member of the royal family since about 1646. And that wasn't a lawful arrest. So it's not a very good example to use the example of King Charles I in 1646, because they fixed that at the time. But that's the last time any member of the royal family has been arrested.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes to show that these are very strange times when they've never, you know, nobody's ever had to deal in this lifetime, really, with a member, or now former member of the royal family being arrested. It's quite astonishing, and no wonder this has gone worldwide. Look, let's talk about the fallout. Look, to be honest, Sir Michael, I am quite shocked that Andrew has not already been removed from the royal line of succession. I mean, there's been allegations of his relationship going, you know, dating back years when it comes to him and Jeffrey Epstein. And then he was removed from, he had his titles removed, and it's been a slow saga since then. What is the hold up here? Why is there such a delay?
That's a really good question, Danica. And one of the reasons why is because of the incredible complexity. It can't just be done with the tick of a box or the signing of a pen. To change the line of succession of the Australian crown or the British crown, the New Zealand crown. It's going to require legislation, not just in the UK or Australia, but actually in 15 countries around the world. That's the only way you can change it under the Westminster Statutes of 1930. That means that not only would Australia have to pass legislation, but all 7 of the Australian states would have to pass their own legislation. Canada and its 10 provinces, all of those individual provinces would have to pass the legislation, and 13 other countries too. So it would be hugely complicated, hugely expensive. It would take probably 2 or 3 years, and I'm not sure that those countries will want to do that. The last time, Danica, that we actually did change the order of succession was in 2013, 12 years ago, and that was for a pretty good reason, because that was a wish to change the rules of primogeniture, because for centuries male children had had preference over female children, and that was changed in 2013 to make them gender neutral, and also to allow members of the royal family to marry Roman Catholics without losing their place in the line of succession. So those were the 2 pretty good reasons, I think you'd agree, that the line of succession was changed in 2013. But even despite the fact that those were really good reasons, it still took 2 years. It took a massive amount of diplomatic negotiation, time and skill to actually get it done, and it still took years. On this occasion, I think a lot of legislators around the world will be saying to themselves, we're not going to waste time on this because Andrew is 8th in line to the throne. There's no reasonable chance that he could ever be king. And so it's pointless and actually quite vindictive to remove him from the line of succession. It's a bit performative. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think people will just say, let's leave it alone and see how things progress.
Yeah, and I mean, we're all hinging on what actually happens from here on in. There's still so much to come from the investigation, so I guess we'll wait and see. And just on that, public support for the royal family has fallen 7% now in 4 months because of this Andrew scandal. I'll take you through it. So every single member has had a downturn. Prince William's ratings have dropped 8 points. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, down 7. Princess Anne recorded the steepest fall, which I thought was interesting, down 9, while the King and Queen have seen smaller but still notable drops of 5 and 3 points respectively, and just 28% of people believe that the royal family have actually handled this Andrew situation well. What does that tell you?
Well, it is obviously a shame because I think most members of the royal family, as we know, work incredibly hard and are devoted to public service and duty. But in the same way that if a restaurant chain, has a food poisoning outbreak, the whole restaurant chain loses business for a bit, that tends to be what happens when something like this has occurred. And, we find the polls do fluctuate. I think looking at the long arc of history, Danica, which I'm always tempted to do with these sorts of situations, Queen Victoria, way back in the 1870s, the monarchy was very, very unpopular, far more unpopular than those polls today are indicating. People were even putting to let signs up on the gates of Buckingham Palace in the 1870s because they never saw Queen Victoria because she was secluded in her widowhood. And things bounced back from that. And what I would say is this, even if we had a president instead of a king, presidents' brothers can also be arrested. Presidents' family members can also get into trouble. It's not as though this is something that is unique to any one family. And the fact that it hasn't happened since the 1640s in this family, the royal family, perhaps means that it's less likely than in the average family because of how they're trained and how they're brought up. So I think particularly when it comes to Australia, the love that the King of Australia has for Australia, and the devotion that the royal family have shown for several generations now, to the Commonwealth generally and to their duty, I hope that people will look at that and say, well, it's not as though it's going to be any different if we had a democratically elected person. We all know that our politicians are also very flawed people, and I say that as a politician myself.
Yes, I mean, look, you can't argue with that, right? We've all got our flaws, all of us. I mean, perhaps some more than others if we're talking about Andrew, but I absolutely take your point on that. Before we let you go, I just want to ask you about the fallout as well for the UK Labor Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And speaking of flaws, I would say there's a couple of there too. Of course, the Peter Mandelson scandal has been shocking for him. He still hired him as the US ambassador, even though he knew that he had links to Jeffrey Epstein. And now, of course, the Andrew allegations coming to light. Where does this leave him?
Oh, I think Keir Starmer's in real trouble. He is in major difficulties. And in fact, if this Andrew thing hadn't broken, he may well have fallen. We tend to get through prime ministers at quite a rate of knots here in the UK in recent years. And Keir Starmer is clinging on for dear life at the moment. He's shown a number of missteps. And I think, the Peter Mandelson appointment as ambassador in the United States clearly has blown back on him in a big way. That isn't over yet. I think he's still got questions to answer. And we know that Parliament here in the UK in London has ordered a number of documents to be released. And they may produce further information about Keir Starmer's decision-making process, which may come back to bite him pretty hard. So I think he's flailing here, and the next 2 or 3 months are going to be quite instrumental because we have local elections, provincial elections here in the UK in early May, and the Labour Party are predicted to do very badly. So he's clinging on for dear life.
Yeah, it's astonishing that he managed to outlast the lettuce out of all of your prime ministers you've had in recent years. He's outlasted the lettuce. It's astonishing. Wow, what an incredible couple of days in the UK. And we're going to be continuing to watch this closely because, as you said, I mean, this is really just the start of it now, and we'll see where it goes. Sir Michael Ellis, a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Danica.
That is all for Danica Goes Global. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week, and make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.